yoga or jnana yoga or karma yoga, but rather it's by bhakti yoga that Krishna gets won over. Another feature is that one should be sangha varajitaha. That's in the verse. And it's saying free from contamination of fruitive activities and mental speculations. And one who's committed to work for Krishna. Now we've got a new phrase, Krishna Karma. What are you doing? How do you spend your time? I'm engaged in Krishna Karma. What are you talking about? Is there karma to do? Do you have karma when you serve Krishna? No, karma means activity. So Krishna activities. Krishna, or let's say activities which have as the focal point Krishna. There's something said here about the goal. Sangha Bharajit, Krishna is the ultimate goal. And then one line that I really like here is being friendly to all living entities. Sarvabhuteshu, right? This is a symptom of a Vaishnava, a Krishna Bhakta, that we're nice to everybody, even enemies, so-called enemies. There shouldn't be any, but if somebody tends to become inimical or negative and aggressive, then we will simply say that, okay, that person's basically my friend. You know? Here's a nice prayer that I looked at yesterday. Someone is saying that God, please protect me. Please, I want to love you. And then the person who reading the prayer offers and says, I will, you have God, you have given me difficulties, even though I've surrendered to you. But those difficulties, if I apply them, they make me strong, so I can overcome them. So challenges may come our way, and we should accept these challenges wholeheartedly and say, this is God giving me. You know, people ask God for so many things. God give me strength. Okay, so God will give you challenges to make you strong. That's the point. And we shouldn't shy away from difficult circumstances. Queen Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, was saying to Krishna that, my Lord, please allow calamities to keep coming our way. Because when they come our way, we are forced to think of you. And when we are thinking of you, it means we are relieving ourselves of birth and death, samsara, that cycle. So Kunti, as an honorable woman, as a great queen, she's saying, Krishna, give us some difficulties. We love it. We love the challenges. Give us something that makes us strong. Even if someone is inimical, we can see them as a friend in a certain way because they're giving us trouble, kind of like a bully type person, and we can thank them, maybe not personally. Maybe it would be a good idea if somebody gives you a hard time at work, or maybe at school we had a bully sitting next to us constantly giving us trouble. Maybe it's a good idea. Hey, thank you for giving me a lot of trouble. It humbles me. I don't know. Maybe it can work for some people. But that whole idea of seeing all living entities as parts and parcels of Krishna is the true vision that one has to have if one wants to make spiritual advancement. That's so important. Yeah. So, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada also goes on to say, he quotes from Rupa Goswami, one of our great teachers, and from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Prabhupada has translated as Nectar of Devotion. And in essence, this verse, 255 from Rupa Goswami's book, is saying that whatever you have, use it in Krishna service. That's real renunciation. In other words, use it in his service, utilize it. See, utility is the principle. And then Prabhupada goes on to talk a lot about build a temple for Krishna. If you're going to build something, you can build a high rise, you can build, and most high rises have low consciousness. High rise and low consciousness buildings are all over the place. But if we can build something for enlightenment, that would be ideal. And I know someone who's got lots of properties in one of our cities up north. And, but now he's thinking, I've got a lot of properties, at least one property I should give to utilize in Krishna service. So that's the way he's thinking. He's thinking along the lines of a Krishna Karma, if that makes any sense. Krishna Karma, one who does things for Krishna. So those are some of the points to cover on this, and highlighting the Tulsi plant. Some of you may have this holy basil called Tulsi in your home. She's quite fragile, touchy, but if you have her in your home, it brings about some auspiciousness. We have our plants and we put them outside. She's still outside, but when the weather gets a little bit chilly in the evening, we'll be bringing her back inside because she's sensitive about the cold. So when Krishna states in the Gita, chapter 9, text 26, Patram pushpam palam toyam, which means offer me a leaf, flower, fruit, or water. There's a reference here to Tulsi, very important in our lives. Would anybody like to offer some questions or some comments at this point before we move on to the rest of the purport? I thought we could break it up a little bit like that. Anybody has anything that's pressuring them on their mind? Kadamba Kanana?
Maharaj, looks like we are fine, Maharaj. We are fine. Yes, Maharaj.
Seeing you, all the pressure is gone. I don't know.
What's that?
Seeing you, all the pressure is gone. There's nothing worrying or pressuring me. And my wife too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so I hope I'm not boring you with my reading. So let's continue on then. We left off at the word matparama, right? That's the
yes, Maharaj.
The word matparamaha refers to one who considers the association of Krishna in his supreme abode to be the highest perfection of life. Such a person does not wish to be elevated to the higher planets, such as the moon or sun or heavenly planets, or even the highest planet of this universe, Brahmaloka. He has no attraction for that. He is only attracted to being transferred to the spiritual sky. And even in the spiritual sky, he is not satisfied with merging into the glowing Brahmajyoti effulgence, for he wants to enter the highest spiritual planet, namely Krishna Loka, the Goloka, Vrindavan. He has full knowledge of that planet, and therefore he is not interested in any other. As indicated by the word matbhaktaha, he fully engages in devotional service, specifically in the 9 processes of devotional engagement: hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering prayers, carrying out the orders of the Lord, making friends with him, surrendering everything. One can engage in all 9 devotional processes, or 8 or 7, or at least in one, and that will surely make one perfect. See the concessions that Krishna is giving. It is Prahlad Maharaj who established these 9 processes, and it's kind of like narrowed it down for our convenience. Say these are 9 activities, 9 devotions. Maybe one day we can do a 9 devotions workshop with your group once we can get over there. It's like usually a 2 or 3 hour workshop. It's so much fun and it's very interactive. So They are all listed here, beginning with Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, and ending up with full-time, all-time surrender, full shift, 24/7 surrender. Even if one can't do all of them, do some of them. Just like we sometimes tell people, well, if you're a real true blue Krishna conscious person, it means you follow 4 regular principles. And we say, if you want to be Krishna conscious, you must not eat meat, don't gamble, don't have illicit sex life, and don't take any intoxicants. And if someone comes to us and said, well, what if you can't follow all of them, but maybe 2 of them? And what should be our answer? Our answer shall be, yes, by all means, do 2 of them. And when you feel up to it, then you can say 3. And somewhere down the road, you'll be able to say, I can do it all. I reached the zenith. I hit the summit of Mount Everest or Mount Sumeru. I've done it, But, people have to have a starting point. And we can't expect people to do everything all at once. That is actually cruel, And they have a saying, cold turkey. Like we don't eat turkeys, but cold turkey means that you want me to eat a turkey that's cold. That's really a big leap for me. That's a real jump, And so in the same way, don't expect people to be Hanuman, that he's going to leap over the ocean. Even Ram didn't do it. Hanuman did it. But we can't expect people to make such drastic or extreme, let's say, steps on their devotional life. We would encourage people to go gradually. And if someone does maybe have a problem in one of these departments of the 4 that I mentioned, we should not shun them. Whatever you are doing in favor to Krishna, that should be highlighted. Krishna states in the Gita, Nahabi Kramana Shasti, Pratyavayo Navidyate, Swapam Apyashadar Mashat, Drayate Mahatobhaya. Which simply means that any little step you're taking, there's no loss. It's only a gain. So we have to start somewhere. If you want to start a fire, maybe a forest is old and it's due for fire. So start a little fire and eventually it will grow. It'll crawl up and become a mean and big fire. So in the same way, we start small and we get big in our bhakti, and this way we advance, and they're always going through like an incremental process. Okay, just like some of you said, we're told, you please try to chant 16 rounds. Oh, well, I can do 2. Okay, great. Well, do 2. That's wonderful, And maybe next month you can do 4. What do you think, And then the individual tries and said, yeah, I think I can manage it. It's just a little bit of time management that's required. And then you get to the next month and you kind of double it. 8 rounds, wow. And then finally 16 rounds, 2 hours of talking to God, communicating with God. It's not so bad after all, So in this way, we gradually increase our goals, our objectives, which we have to do for ourselves. And sometimes God may also insist, or Guru may also help the Shishya, the individual, to progress through a lot of encouragement. Okay. Anybody have any questions or thoughts right now? Or another little break before we move on? Okay.
It's your desire, Maharaj, whatever you like. Thank you.
Okay. I know you were going to reserve all your comments for later on, right? Okay, the term Sangha Varijita is very significant. One should disassociate himself from persons who are against Krishna. Not only are the atheistic persons against Krishna, but so also are those who are attracted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. Therefore, the pure form of devotional service is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 as follows. Anya Vilashika Shunyam Jnana Karma Janavritam Anukulina Krishna Nushilanam Bhaktir Uttama. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami clearly states that if anyone wants to execute unalloyed devotional service, he must be freed from all kinds of material contamination. He must be freed from the association of persons who are addicted to fruitive activities and mental speculation. When free from such unwanted association from the contamination of material desires, one favorably cultivates knowledge of Krishna. That is called pure devotional service. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya originam. That's from Bhakti Hari Bhakti Vilas 11.676. Want to think of Krishna and act for Krishna favorably, not unfavorably. Here's an example that is given often. Kamsa was an enemy of Krishna. From the very beginning of Krishna's birth, Kamsa planned in so many ways to kill him. And because he was always unsuccessful, he was always thinking of Krishna. Thus, while working, while eating, and while sleeping, he was always Krishna conscious in every respect. But that Krishna consciousness was not favorable. And therefore, in spite of his always thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day, he was considered a demon. And Krishna at last killed him. Of course, anyone who was killed by Krishna attained salvation immediately. That is not the aim of the pure devotee. The pure devotee does not even want salvation. He does not want to be transferred even to the highest planet, Goloka Vrindavan. His only objective is to serve Krishna wherever he may be. Yeah, so that's an important point right there. Kamsa, he was always meditating on the Lord, especially near the end. He always had Krishna on his mind. And, because the prophecy said, the prophetic voice that appeared there in the sky, the wedding of Kamsa's sister Devaki and Vasudeva. It said, the 8th child of Devaki will be your slayer. So especially near the end, he had mercilessly slain 6 boys, and then Balaram was transferred from the womb of Devaki to Rukmini, so that was the 7th boy. But it was the 8th boy, Krishna, that specifically was going to be the one to kill him. And ever since he heard that, he was very defensive, he was very cautious, and he did whatever he could to put roadblocks on the way for Krishna. But he never succeeded. And Kamsa was a little bit dull, he couldn't figure it out. After, all these years, he couldn't touch Krishna, he just couldn't, Krishna remained unscathed, despite all the attacks on him. Now, you'd think that Kamsa would get his act together and say, listen, I can't vanquish this Krishna. It's actually impossible. But, for most of us, there's always one last hope. And even for those who are leading a life of, let's say, not so honorable means, will also have that kind of hope. What was it? Jarasan had attacked Krishna's city, Dwarka, and he attacked again and again and again. And at one point, he actually was successful. He saw Krishna's fleeing. Yay, we've conquered. Krishna's leaving, and with his brother. And but he didn't know that Krishna could continue to defeat Jarasan. He, in fact, left Dwarka because he got a special letter. And that letter was delivered by a Brahmin coming from Rukmini. And Rukmini said, of all the people I know in my life, you're the one. You've got to come and capture me. You've got to kidnap me and get me out of this. What's a mess? So Krishna saw that letter and he said, I have to go now. That was the most important thing to him, to rescue Rukmini, to take care of his devotee, to be honest with you. Yep. Okay, so we have just a little bit left of the paragraph 2. I'm sorry, 2 paragraphs to the purport. Shall we continue, Kadamba Kanana?
Yes, Maharaj. Please, Maharaj.
Let's go now to the subject of what is maybe our favorite part of the verse. A devotee of Krishna is friendly to everyone. Therefore, it is said here that he has no enemy. Nira Vaira. How is this? The devotee situated in Krishna consciousness knows that only devotional service to Krishna can relieve a person from all the problems of life. He has personal experience of this, and therefore he wants to introduce the system, Krishna consciousness, into human society. There are many examples in history of devotees of the Lord who risked their lives for the spreading of God consciousness. The favorite example is Lord Jesus Christ. He was crucified by the non-devotees, but he sacrificed his life for spreading God consciousness. Of course, it would be superficial to understand that he was killed. Similarly, in India, also there are many examples, such as Thakur Haridas, Prahlad Maharaj. Why such risk? Because they want to spread Krishna consciousness, and it is difficult. A Krishna conscious person knows that if a man is suffering, it is due to his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. Therefore, the highest benefit one can render to human society is relieving one's neighbor from all material problems. In such a way, a pure devotee is engaged in the service of the Lord. Now, we can imagine how merciful Krishna is to those engaged in his service, risking everything for him. Therefore, it is certain that such persons must reach the supreme planet after leaving the body. So there's mention here, of course, of risk takers. Jesus was one of them. And, even though he may not be part of our tradition or our lineage, he had the same objective: let's spread higher consciousness. And he did, and his sort of fellow, what do you call them? Rabbis. Rabbis didn't like him. No, Jesus was a threat to them because the rabbis who are kind of like Brahmins, they feel threatened if someone becomes popular and enlightens people and encourages them in spiritual life. So this was the case during Jesus's time, and it was the rabbis as well as the Romans who determined that Jesus has got to go. But what they didn't understand is that although they tortured him, you can say he left his body, but he didn't die. He didn't die, and that's our philosophy, right? You don't die, even if you're under the duress of others. You don't die. You always will live. Other examples given is Prahlad Maharaj and Haridas Thakur. It is said that Haridas Thakur is a incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. And tomorrow we're honoring Haridas Thakur, or I believe it's his passing. And so the unique thing about him, he was coming from an Islamic background, but he decided to be a Vaishnava. He was drawn to Krishna Bhakti. And his people resented that. They didn't like it at all. So he was tortured in 22 different marketplaces. But he also came out unscathed. An ordinary man would have died with that kind of, punishment. But Haridas Thakur was spared by Krishna. Let's last paragraph then here. In summary, the universal form of Krishna, which is a temporary manifestation, and the form of time, which devours everything, and even the form of Vishnu, four-handed, have all been exhibited by Krishna. Thus, Krishna is the origin of all these manifestations. It is not that Krishna is a manifestation of the original Vishvarup or Vishnu. Krishna is the origin of all forms. There are hundreds of thousands of Vishnus, but for a devotee, no form of Krishna is important, but the original form, two-handed Shyamasundar. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that those who are attached to the Shyamasundar form of Krishna in love and devotion can see him always within the heart. You cannot see anything else. One should understand, therefore, that the purport of this 11th chapter is that the form of Krishna is essential and supreme. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to the 11th chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the universal form. Yes, okay. So it's devotees have this salve of love of God. Their eyes are smeared with love of Krishna. And so Krishna is loved and it can be offered. Well, why not Vishnu? Okay, Vishnu is quite cool. Well, not a problem, but Krishna is the charmer. We won't forget that. Krishna is the one who has these special features about his life. And that is not paralleled by anybody else. And so therefore, although Vishnu and Krishna are one and the same, a preference goes to Krishna because of his the special approach to everyone. Yeah, he has a special approach. As I mentioned, he's a charmer, he's a lover, he plays the flute, he attracts everyone by his beauty. There's four areas of let's say where qualities that puts Krishna in the acceleration lane. Yeah. So anyways, those are some points to cover on this last verse from chapter 11. And as Prabhupada says here, it is the essence of the Gita, then we should take it kind of seriously. Of course, one can go to some other verses, chapter 1865, 1866. There are some real nice shlokas in chapter 9 also expressing the essence of the Gita. With the heart of bhakti, one can win over Krishna. So any deliberations then from any of you? Now you have the chance to open up the floodgates. Yes, Ashok, right?
It is such a beautiful verse, and the way you described, I really liked it. You summarized it how Lord Krishna's love is so unconditional. And one of the things I really liked today's talk is it brought other religions' concepts into it. For example, you mentioned about Christ dying, and Prabhupada gave a good analogy of, but it was brought in the context. And then I found you mentioned a little more about the Muslim and their concepts. And at the beginning itself, you said that Krishna is so merciful. He gives you use the word concessions. I like this because we're all for concessions and save. And he said he gives you options, up to 9 options. And also he's giving you time. He doesn't say you have to finish all of them by a particular deadline. And I think I like those things in this description that you gave so beautifully. And I just wanted to know how you thought so many centuries and millennia ago, Lord knew how human beings are. He was so understanding. There are so many types. There are so many people with minimum capacities. And if you have a minute, please compare that to other major religions, how they're so powerful, making you God-fearing. And I love to hear it from you, Maharaj. Thank you.
So what you're asking me is, can I talk about, comparing Krishna consciousness to some other religions?
Please.
Well, last night I had a very nice experience. Where we are in Toronto, it's near Yorkville. Yorkville is sort of a trendy, cool area with some nightlife. I would say it's not grungy nightlife, but it's people drink and they're kind of respectable people. And all the cafes are out there right now. So I was walking through there because I must walk every day. I didn't have a chance, so it was in the evening. So while I was walking and about to make a turn to go back towards the temple, I heard the voice of a young man. He said, "Are you a Christian monk?" And I stopped, I turned around and said, well, actually, I am a Krishna monk. Krishna. He said, Christian, yeah, you're a Christian monk? I said, no, Krishna, like Hare Krishna. Said, oh, yeah, like Hindu. I said, okay, yeah, well, some theologians like to put us in a neat little box and say, okay, you're Hindus. But I told them, it's a little bit more about than being part of a religion. It's part of living a life based on wisdom. You know?
Maharaj, you are muted, Maharaj. Just now, Maharaj, just 3 seconds.
Come in, call in. I was raised as a Christian, and I still believe I'm a Christian. I never left it. I never officially left it. I just add Krishna to my life. And so one of the boys there said, oh, I see. So you feel more enriched and you don't feel like you're, that there's divisions religiously. And I said, yeah, absolutely. If I can add something to my lifestyle, which will give more depth, why not? And so then one of the boys asked, oh, do you like your lifestyle? I said, absolutely, I absolutely do. And so you don't party? I said, well, no, I used to. I used to. I tried everything, but it's temporary. It's just temporary stimulation. And so all the four guys who looked fairly clean cut, very decent, I think I sense they all came from good families, right? That was my gut feeling. And they said, okay, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. So I said, we have discipline in our life, and we're trying to cultivate our inner side. So like we're in the world in which we live, you see down the street here, everyone's part of the pop culture, and which is all about stimulation, temporary, very, little bit here and a little bit there. But what if you were able to live a life where it was more consistent, and by addressing the self, which is the Atma, the soul, wouldn't it make more sense to have a little bit of discipline in your life, so to have long-term benefits as opposed to the short-term benefits that come from the pop culture? And the guys were really drinking it up. I must say, they were really enjoying it very much, and it was such a nice encounter. So they had some affiliation with Christianity. That's what my understanding was. And they could see that, okay, Krishna consciousness and Christ consciousness, they are compatible with one another. Yeah. And yesterday I also had my shiatsu therapist came to the temple for the first time, and I showed him, here is a God, male, masculine aspect of God. Here's the female or feminine, divine mother, divine father. That's our understanding of God. And he liked that very much. I said, well, you're Catholic, I said. So, you have statues in your churches and so on like that. We sing hymns, we call them mantras. So, the attempt here is to try to get people to see you don't need walls between, the institutions. And so when it comes to, we mentioned about Islam, well, there's aspects of Islam that are quite Krishna conscious, saying Allah's name. That's the principle, say the name of God. But we should be very inclusive. People who are spiritual practitioners, we should not start to condemn other people necessarily, unless if they're on a hate campaign. If there is a religion that's on a hate campaign, it lives grossly on fear, well, I'm not going to put my shoes into that place. I'd rather be involved in a place where there's love and where there's inclusiveness, and at the same time following some kind of discipline. And that's what bhakti is all about. I hope that helps with your question.
That's a beautiful explanation. Thank you, Maharaj.
Personal experience. Just go out there, wear the traditional robes. It helps out. Maybe we can go for one more.
Anyone else has questions? Devotees? Like to ask Maharaj? Yes,
Well,
please proceed.
we have someone.
Yes, Maharaj. Niranjan.
Niranjan. Okay, Niranjan, let's hear from you.
Hare Krishna. A general question, like if the ultimate final goal of Bhagavad Gita is taking the Lord Krishna's name and constantly in his like in the Krishna consciousness, and when we know like this Bhuloka, I'm sorry, someone else is
Someone else's
voices okay in the background. Okay, yeah, and when we know this Bhuloka is like full of sufferings and Krishna conscious way is the only way to get out of it, like the constant remembrance of Lord Krishna's name. What is the goal of people who reads Bhagavad Gita, knows Bhagavad Gita and recites it daily, still have kids when we know this is a sinful like not pleasant world we are living in? Why do you want to have the kids and again asking them to go through all the pain when we know this is a painful world?
So, so you're talking about the issue of why would anybody want to have kids? Because it's a difficult world. Is that the essence of it?
Yeah, in general, like when people know about the truth of Bhagavad Gita, still why do they want to have kids?
Why do they want to have children?
Yeah.
Because it's natural. Biologically, it's natural. Children are extensions of ourselves. The benefit of having children is that you get a chance to serve other souls. Because at least for the first 20 years of a child's life, you've got to put incredible amount of energy into it. And in this way, you learn service. And, ultimately gets transferred to serving Krishna. So that children are an absolute blessing. I would say that children help us to learn sacrifice. And let's say if you have an active sex life, but you don't have children, this is also in a way kind of irresponsible life. Of course, some people can't have children. They try, but they can't. There's some, problems, but it's children they give us so much life, so much joy, so much hope. They make us laugh. They definitely put us to work, and we just have to think more for them as opposed to ourselves. So it helps us in our spiritual development. They're helping us gradually to spiritually progress by thinking more of them instead of for ourselves. And Prabhupada had children, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, more honoring today. This is his birthday, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He had many, many children. And one thing that Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada's guru, said, he said, I am a sannyasi, but if I was a married person, I'd have lots of children. I have lots of children so that we can populate the world with Krishna consciousness in that way. So the children are very much an asset.
Thank you, Maharaji.
Yes, thank you. I'll have to dash off then, and we shall be in touch with you folks for the next time we meet in October. And what would be the day of that?
One second, Maharaj. Let me look at the calendar.
Let's try to get that nailed down.
Maharaj would 16th of October or 9th of October, Maharaj, which day will be suitable? 9th or 16th?
9th, I'm in Cleveland.
Yes, Maharaj.
I'll be kind of busy.
Yes, Maharaj. 16th?
16th, Yeah, I have a class at 1 p.m. Yeah, we could do it. Yes.
Yes, Maharaj.
16th is okay?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, okay.
Maharaj.
All right. Thank you. And that's at 11 a.m., right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, super. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I feel blessed.
Hare Krishna.
I feel blessed. Blessed. All right. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Very grateful.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so much,
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Jai.
Thank you so much, dear devotees. We'll come back again next week. Hare Krishna. And today is Bhakti. I'm sorry. Today is the appearance day of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and tomorrow is the disappearance of Haridas Thakur. So let's keep that in our meditation. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Babaji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.